can I read 200 books by the end of 2024? It is the 1st of December right now, and I'm gonna try and read 200 books before the year ends. Right now, I've currently read 184 books, which means I have 16 books left to read. Do I think I can do this? Honestly, no, because December is usually a busy month. We have the holidays and there are other things going on. I honestly don't know if I can read 200 books by the end of the year, but this is why this is a challenge, because I want to see if I can do it. The first book that I'm reading is The Darkest Part of the Forest by Holly Black. I've read quite a bit of it from last month, so I think I'll be able to finish this either today or tomorrow because it's pretty short. I don't have that much left to read, and it's very interesting because it's obviously about the Fae world, because that is what Holly Black is famous for writing. I am really enjoying it. It just feels very magical, kind of fever dreamish, because everything that is happening in this book literally just feels like a dream, a fairy tale. But originally I took a little break from this book, so I'm just getting back into it right now. I finished reading the first book, which is The Darkest Part of the Forest, and I did really enjoy it. However, I do feel like the writing in a way bored me. In saying that, I don't think the writing is bad or anything, but I did have to take a break from the book and read another book because it was just something about the writing that I don't know how to explain it, but it kind of just made me want to stop reading the book. Last night I also started reading The Scum's Villain Self-Saving System Volume 4, and I literally stayed up to read it. I have this scene where I'm like, I should read before bed so I can actually go to sleep because reading makes me tired. But then I started reading Volume 4 because I wanted to read it, and then I ended up staying up for like 2 hours to read the book, and I think I read halfway through it until I decided, you know what, I actually need to go to sleep. So I spent the rest of the whole day finishing the book, and I really enjoyed it. I love reading about the different side characters and learning more about their background, but also reading about 𝐤𝐮𝐬𝐢's like past life. I don't know what book I'm reading next. I wanted to start reading Nothing Like the Movies, but I don't know, I thought more about it and I kind of went ahead to the end because I just wanted to see how I felt about the end, because I know what this book is about. I feel like I kind of got spoiled in a way of the plot, and I just don't know if I'm really happy with the plot, and I just feel like, what's the point of reading this, because that's not the way I envisioned their story to go. And then I read the ending and I was like, I don't really like the writing of this or how it turned out, so I think I'm just not gonna read it because I don't want to ruin Better Than the Movies for me. I finally picked the third book that I'm gonna be reading, which is Things a Bright Girl Can Do. This is a historical fiction based around the women's suffrage, and we follow three main characters, which are Evelyn, May, and Nell, and they're basically in different classes. And it's just interesting to, I guess, see their different perspective and how they come together as they're all focused on this one thing, which is obviously fighting for the rights of women. I haven't read that much of it so far, and to be honest, I feel like I'm just not a historical fiction fan, and because of that, I'll be reading this book pretty slowly because I don't know why, I just feel bored sometimes when it comes to reading historical fiction, and because of that, I just can't get through them quickly. And I know it's not like you have to read a book super quickly, but I just think when it comes to me, I read obviously for enjoyment, and I don't get that feeling with historical fiction, but at the same time I do feel like they're very valuable to read, and even though I do read them quite slowly, I feel like I still enjoy them. You know, I did end up DNFing a book already this month, which was the QB Bad Boy and Me, which is a Wattpad book, which recently got released as a movie called Sideline, the QB and Me, and it has Noah Beck in it, which I'm sorry, while starting to read the book, I was like, I can't imagine Noah Beck because to me he's just not attractive. I don't know, I just couldn't get through the book. I barely even read it. However, sometimes I just think with Wattpad it's a hit or a miss. And unfortunately for me, this was a miss. Even with the movie itself, I couldn't get through it because I just felt like it was so cringy. And the book itself, I think, was kind of better, but still, I just don't really know if I was in a mood for like a YA romance bad boy kind of type of book. I have finished reading Quicksilver, which if you guys love A Court of Thorns and Roses, Fourth Wind, you would absolutely eat this book up. Like, trust me, you would love this book, which is why it's so popular on Book Talk, because it's the perfect book in terms of romantasy, and I enjoyed it. It was a really fun kind of nostalgic book. At the same time though, it was a little bit boring in the terms of it was so slow in terms of pacing, and because of that I just felt like nothing was going on. I also felt like the ending was kind of anticlimactic. Like I wanted more out of it, especially because the whole entire book had this one focus, and leading towards that was so slow, and then going to the ending where I felt like there was this whole revelation and everything was supposed to go down, that didn't really do anything to me. Like I sat there and I'm like, okay, this is a fun book, but there's nothing about it that kind of hooks me in even further. I am excited to see where the rest of the trilogy goes, and in terms of the romance, I am excited to see how it develops, because in my opinion it didn't start off the best, and then all of a sudden we take like a 180, and then I swear Kingfisher, his whole personality changes. But not gonna lie, I do kind of like reading romance like that, so I am excited for the second book to come out next year, and you betcha I'm gonna be reading that book as soon as I get my hands on it. I am DNFing my second book in this video, which is unfortunately Things a Bright Girl Can Do. I don't know, historical fiction is really not my thing. I tried to push through it as much as I possibly could, and then I just came to the realization, why am I forcing myself to read this book? I was reading this book as I was reading Quicksilver, and as you can tell by the last time I updated, it's been a while since I've been reading this book, and I have made progress obviously, but it's very slow and very painful for me. It's nothing to do with the book, it's just me, my mood, and what I feel like reading. And I think especially with this book in general, I think that the idea of like women's suffrage, reading that is really interesting, but then reading about the war and the beginning of it and how everyone was so excited and they thought that it was an adventure, and I don't know, reading that is just so hard, knowing the events of war and what happened and how it ended and the disaster it created. Just my heart really hurts, and I think that's the reason why I don't like reading historical fiction, because it obviously goes through all of that and I'm just like, I cannot read it. Historical fantasy I don't mind, but I think just in general I prefer something that is made up. You know, whenever I read about real life stuff, reality, it just makes me really sad. So the next book that I'm going to be reading is Sunkissed by Casey West. This is a YA romance book. I think I should go through it pretty quickly. I'm excited to read it because I'm trying to get through all of Casey West's books, and then I have a video planned, so I'm excited to read those books. It's gonna be some, I think, mystery slash thrillers. I finally finished reading another book, which was Sunkissed by Casey West. I am such a big fan of Casey West. She just writes the perfect like a YA fluffy romance book, and this one is set in the summertime. It's actually a pretty fun book because it's about going to like a summer camp, and when I read the title Sunkissed, honestly thought it was gonna be at a beach or something, but I do really like the setting of the book, and I really liked our main character and how we got to meet other characters who work in the camp and how she formed a friendship with them. And then we have obviously the male lead, who is he a guitarist? Yeah, he's a guitarist in a band, and she gets kind of involved with the band, and it was just a really cute book. I liked how the relationship was very slow burn. They didn't really get together until the very end, but it was just really cute seeing how the relationship develops, and I love books like this so much. It is Friday the 13th and I just finished reading a mystery slash thriller book. I actually finished it yesterday, and that was The Sundown Motel. I really enjoyed this book. It's been a while since I read a mystery slash thriller book, and honestly I feel like I should read more, but I just really enjoyed the book. It was one of those books where I wanted to read it so quickly because of the suspense, but at the same time I didn't want to read it because I was afraid of what was going to happen. Sometimes honestly the tension in this book as they were uncovering the mystery really killed me. Basically we have two point of views, which are Viv and Carly, and Carly is the present timeline and Viv is her auntie who disappears, and they both kind of lead a parallel life in this town called Fell, and both of them visit that place. In the past, Viv worked the night shift at the Sundown motel, and there were a bunch of creepy things that happened and a bunch of serial killing around that time of young girls. And then we have Carly, who has gone to Fell in search of her aunt and to kind of know what happened, what led to her disappearance, and we kind of follow both of them as Viv is unraveling the mystery of who the serial killer is, and Carly is unraveling the mystery of what happened to her aunt and why did she disappear. So I really enjoyed it. It was so interesting reading the different perspective and also the revelation. I do think that the plot twist did really shock me. To be honest, I didn't really have any theories. I was just suspicious of everyone. I'm currently reading Home Before Dark, and this is again for another video. I haven't really read that much of it, so we will see. I finished reading Home Before Dark, which honestly this book kind of disappointed me because it was just really boring. If I'm being honest, it was very slow, and I feel like the suspense was not suspensing, the thriller was not thrilling, the whole plot twist, the whole reveal was just kind of lackluster, felt kind of flat, and the whole entire time I was just sitting there and I was kind of like, this is it. So I was pretty disappointed. The next book that I'm going to be reading, however, is The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime, because the title is what caught my attention. Because what does that even mean? It's so intriguing. What happened to the dog in the nighttime? We're gonna find out. I finished reading The Curious Incident of the Dog at Nighttime, and it was a very interesting book because we basically have a narrator who has autism, so reading through his perspective was really interesting, and the layout of the book was also pretty interesting because there's no chapters. It's basically just, I guess, numbers to indicate a new chapter. There's a bunch of graphs and numbers and all that stuff. I'll be honest, I skipped through most of the math stuff because there were some instances where he would kind of just talk about all the steps through maths and stuff like that, and I was like, not reading that. Anyways, this book, if I'm being honest, left me kind of frustrated because I was just so interested to learn about the relationship between him and his parents with each other, because there was a lot going on. Certain things that really did surprise me, but I felt like in the end I wanted more. I wanted to see the progress of everything, and then it ended so abruptly, and because of that I feel really frustrated. It is a pretty short book. It's less than 300 pages, but honestly I felt like it could have been longer because I swear it ended out of nowhere and I wanted to know more that happened. So it definitely was a pretty interesting book. I'm currently reading Never Fade, which is the second book to the Darkest Minds. I'm rereading this trilogy. I haven't read that much of it, so after finishing this book I'm gonna try and get through it really quickly because I love this trilogy so much. It's actually my second time rereading it, but I'm really excited to get through it. It's kind of like a dystopian fantasy book, so if you guys like dystopian books like Shatter Me, then you would probably like this. Also, the romance of this book is so good. Top tier. Literally the reason why I wanted to reread this book, if I'm being honest. But I'm gonna read this book, and I think for the next of the month I'm just gonna halt doing reading vlogs and just read whatever I want so I can relax. I know technically this is a reading vlog as well, but I don't really count it because it's not a lot of pressure, you know. Anyways, we have a few weeks left of December. It's gonna go by pretty quickly, and so far I've read I think 191 books, so I don't really expect at this point to actually make it to 200, but we'll see if I do. So I finished another book which was not Never Fade. I ended up reading a Chinese BL novel, and it's called I Like Your Pheromones. I actually started reading this as a manhwa online, but then it's not completed, so since it's a web novel I just decided, you know what, I'm just going to continue on with reading the novel. So I kind of skipped the chapters that I read that I already read on the manhwa because I was gonna read the whole thing from the beginning, but I was just not bothered because I already knew what happened, so I ended up just continuing on with the last chapter of the manhwa, I guess. And this is basically an ABO, or I guess like Omega first book, where our main character blossoms as an Omega pretty late in his life, and he ends up having a stress disorder where he's allergic to other alphas' pheromone, but the guy that he hates ends up being like compatible with him. Like his pheromones are compatible with our MC, so his pheromones are actually able to, I guess, calm his allergies, and that's basically, I guess, the basis of this book. It's also set in high school, and it was just such a really cute novel to read. I also read it pretty quickly. I think I finished it in like 2 days, because when I really like a book, I swear I'm desperate to get through it. And surprisingly, it was like pretty short, because usually I feel like anime books, light novels in general, just like any Korean, Chinese, etc. light novels, I swear they are always so long, which is why usually they need to be broken up into volumes when they're like officially translated. Let's check what I have read of Nevernight. I haven't really read that much. I haven't made that much progress, because I feel like at this point I kind of need to get back into it, because I feel like as of right now I'm picking it up, but I'm not really sitting down and reading it, and I feel like I need to hit a certain point before I will be able to read everything really quickly. So as of right now I'm 18% into it, so I'm still at the beginning, and hopefully I will get through it today. But honestly, I just feel so lazy. Like, it's Christmas in 2 days, which is exciting. I don't know, I feel like I was in a fantasy mood, like I really wanted to read a fantasy book, but now I don't even know what kind of mood I am in terms of reading, and I just want to kind of read whatever I read. I don't want to really force myself, so I may end up starting another book in the end, but right now I'm gonna try and stick with this book. So I was gonna do this whole Merry Christmas clip and everything, but then I ended up getting food poisoning, which was really disappointing, because we were gonna have Korean barbecue on that day, but I basically spent the whole day sleeping. I couldn't really do anything, couldn't read, couldn't watch TikTok, and it was so painful. So I haven't really read that much, but I did finish Never Fade, which I kind of forgot how dark this book is, and it's a YA book, so I was pretty surprised. But it does have, I guess, some mind torture going on and some idea of like morality. And the main character, our main character Ruby, is like she's seriously going through some things, and it's crazy because I never realized it when I read the book the first time, and I read it when I was pretty young. I would say that when I reached the ending of the book, it was a little bit difficult for me to get through it. I think I struggled a lot, and then I was gonna start reading another book, but then I was like, you know what, I'm gonna finish it. So yeah, I don't even know why it was hard for me to get through. Maybe at that point I was just done with reading the book. So I don't know when I'm gonna read the third book. But honestly, I swear this book has kind of like the best confession scene. Not really a confession scene. Everything in this book is messed up, in my opinion. I also started reading another book, which is Hello Stranger by Catherine Center. I read The Bodyguard, I think, last month, and I was really interested in checking out some of Catherine Center's other books, and I think Hello Stranger is the only other one that I've heard about, so I was really interested to pick it up. This is basically about a portrait artist who has a brain surgery which ended up leaving her unable to recognize faces, and obviously since she's a portrait artist, this is not really a good thing. And I will be honest, our main girlie is kind of annoying me. She's very delulu. Like, she has a lot of fantasies, which I understand because I feel the same way, but it's just like your fantasies are a little bit like unrealistic. Like, at least I'm a little bit self-aware, but she just goes through things way too quickly. For example, she meets this guy who I think is a love interest, I'm not really sure, but she's kind of like, oh, I cannot see his face, but I know from his like aura, from his outfit or like his gait or something, that he is super hot. And then when he asks her on a date, she's like, oh my god, we're gonna get married and everything, where are we gonna go for our honeymoon and stuff like that. And I'm like, girl, slow down, you've just met this man. And I would say that, yeah, that's one thing that's kind of annoying me by the main character, but so far I'm like enjoying the story. I think I'll be able to get through it quite quickly, but we are nearing the end of December and I have not even made it close to 200, but whatever. I finished reading Hello Stranger, and to be honest, I'm kind of conflicted. Look, first of all, the main character is really annoying. I don't know, she's just so delulu to the point where I'm kind of like, girl, It's so funny because she's so delulu about, I guess, her romance, but then when it comes to, I guess, her career, she's very pessimistic about it. And if you guys read the book, you would know, but there is a love triangle, and it's crazy because she meets this guy, she falls in love with him. I was gonna say love at first sight, but she can't even recognize faces. Anyways, she meets this guy, she's only talked to him 2 times, and from that point, she's already imagined their marriage, their honeymoon, the rest of their life together. And I'm like, girl, calm down. You've only met him 2 times. So at this point, I'm kind of like, how are you so in love with this guy when you've barely even talked to him? And why are you already planning your whole life and your whole marriage together? Like, it's honestly so crazy. I don't know. I feel like in a way I got secondhand embarrassment from that scene, and I didn't understand. And the whole, I guess, twist still did not help me understand that aspect of it. I did, I guess, like the second guy. I liked how their relationship developed more strongly from her having a bad first impression of him, and then them slowly, I guess, getting to know each other and her starting to open up to him. But I don't really know if the romance is like my favorite thing ever. I think compared to The Bodyguard, I prefer that rather than this one. So I did enjoy the book in terms of like reading it. I did get through it pretty quickly, but I think the character and the romance wasn't exactly my favorite. And if you guys have read this book, you would know like the whole, I guess, twist and the ending and everything. And yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. So I've started reading another book which is called By Your Fingertips, and I don't know how many pages I've read so far because I'm reading it online, but this book, it's honestly, it's so weird. It's a Danmei book, but it's about this guy who I think turns into a vampire, and there is a student whose blood he's attracted to, so he's drinking his blood. But it's so weird because both of them act like it's a completely normal thing, especially the guy who he's drinking the blood from, and I'm just like, what is going on? I'm on chapter 23. I will hopefully read a lot of it today, but as of right now, I'm so confused on what the story is about. And the plot is a little bit outrageous.